Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the UKEL channel. My name is Luna. I'll be joined by Bloxer for the first series in our promotion relegation tournament between Division 1 and Division 2. Tonight, we'll be covering the best of three going on between the Bandits and Inari. One of the best of Division 2 going against one of the stragglers in our last split of Division 1. Bloxer, how are you feeling? What are your thoughts coming into this series ahead of watching the teams get onto the Rift?
You say stragglers of Division 1, and you definitely would be right in the overall sense, but also Bandits kind of put it together for themselves towards the end of our split. They end up with 3 wins, 6 losses, but all 3 of those wins came on the bounce at the very end of the tournament, and it was after they had quite a lot of movement around in their player list. I mean, Lungfo specifically wasn't there. He was there for their first game that they end up losing to Venom Crest, then missed out on most of the split, then comes back right at the end, and like I said, win 3 on the bounce. So yes, this is a Bandits team that wasn't great overall, that did get themselves into those bottom positions. That's why they're playing here. But still, they seem to be turning it on just a little bit more. That's obviously very different right here than Inari, who had themselves a brilliant split. They didn't quite top out the group stage. They were tied for first, didn't quite have it in their, I think it was 5v45 is who they ended up just losing out that first spot to in the actual group standings, but they then immediately 2-0 them during the playoff stage and make their way all the way to come out top of Division 2. So there's very different teams, very different looks throughout the entirety of this split.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to, overcome the adversary and come out on top and going up against one of our slightly weaker Division 1 teams from this split just gone. That being said, the Bandits historically have not struggled as much as they did this split. I'm not sure what changed. I'm not sure what difference has happened. And we'll see if they can start to, as you say, continue on their way of clawing it back in this series tonight. But if Inari are truly a force to be reckoned with, I think they've got their work cut out for them.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a Bandits that, had a really bad time of it in this last split, but overall, I think they should be pretty happy with the way that they were able to play out this year. They make it to the finals, lose to a very strong Venom Crest, obviously, in our first split. In our second split, they're still looking pretty good, right? I think they come out at least mid-top of playoffs, don't quite make it all the way to the finals again, but that was a very top-heavy split where we had a 5 IQ with a lot of big names on it. Venom Crest still absolutely rolling, so not making it all the way to the finals, really not going to be too much of something you look at them and go, that's terrible. But then in that final split, the thing is, right, again, those 3 wins on the bounce at the end is so impressive from them because of all the adversity they had to come through, but then also because that ends with them actually just level with a bunch of other teams. They end up drawing with Paragon and Venom Crest. Venom Crest just about, because of head-to-head, squeak their way into the playoffs, avoid these promo relegations. Paragon are the other team. They are currently, at the same time, going to be playing their matchup up against Natives, I think.
Yes,
so unfortunately, because those are parallel, we're not going to be able to bring you both, but we'll see whoever the loser of that is going to be, I think, in our next round.
Yes, I think so. Could be wrong, but I think so.
Should be.
We'll see. That being said, we'll focus in on Bandits and Inari, which is a very quick rundown of the rosters. I'm sure plenty of you have come to know and love. Start with the Bandits. Lars, coming back into the top lane, a well-known name for Division 1. We'll see if the Fiora gets through it all tonight. I highly doubt it. It shouldn't. No, it really, really shouldn't. Look for in the jungle. Again, that big name that kind of took most of the split off came back and started on that redemption arc for the Bandits. We've got Ryu in the mid lane, Kavya Vampire AD carry, and a Werpy in support. Now, this roster is not that different to the roster we saw throughout the regular split. I don't believe.
No, this is the roster they wanted to have. This is the roster they had when they won their games. This is the roster I think they started the era for as well. It was all of the changes throughout the middle of the split that ended up kind of ruining what could have been a fun run.
Absolutely. On the other side for Inari, in top lane there is Oku, jungle has Nat, mid has Ziz, ADC is Nico, and I'm going to have to squint at this one because the screen is not very high quality. The support is Maraka. So, top of Division 2.
Yeah.
Evidently, they've proven that they've got what it takes to contend with the best at their level. We'll see if they can contend with the bottom of Division 1. Now, looking forwards, as we should be getting into draft very, very shortly. We are on live patch, I believe. So we have got a couple of changes to think about. The meta has shifted slightly. What are you expecting to be the big focal points in this series, Bloxer?
I'd love to talk about somewhere else, but unfortunately, there is a Lars on our screens, and we are gonna have to look up at the top lane, right? He had such a legendary split a while ago with the Fiora top. It was the whole meme, right? Just ban it, right? Just get rid of it. There's no point in it going through. I do expect that we're not going to end up seeing Lars's Fiora here. You have to imagine that Inari will have recognized that that's not necessarily going to be a good idea for them to pick up and get rid of it. But still, Lars demands so much attention, not just necessarily because he can beat you in the 1v1, although that's definitely true in certain situations. He's just a split push merchant. I mean, more than almost any other team, and we had quite a lot of split pushing this split, right? You had Raider sat in the side lanes quite a lot on a team that ended up doing very well for themselves, second place in Division 1. But Lars specifically almost never left the top lane at all. I mean, he basically glued himself to the top lane on whatever champion he had. It's going to be interesting to see what Oku can do to try to fight that off. Do you think you can actually go toe-to-toe and 1v1 Lars? Or are you going to go more for that sort of, I'm going to join up with the rest of my team look? And in that case, do you have the map rotation to stop Lars from just taking all your towers?
Yep, another one that he was very well known for, if memory serves, was the Tryndamere, which is not something we see very often at this level. Of course, looking across how the meta has shifted, we've kind of moved away from a lot of the blind picks that we have been seeing throughout a lot of the year. Things like the Varus, for example, dropped in priority massively. Something like the Ashe come back up. And I think that suits Caviar perfectly fine.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a lot of diversity that we're seeing in, honestly, the majority of lanes. I think jungle and support are where things have been the most static. I mean, engaged supports for the most part, and those more skirmish-heavy junglers. We'll see how many of those actually end up slipping through. I wouldn't be surprised if we get any Vi, Xin Zhao, Wukong bans, Pantheon as well, being very strong at the moment, and these are all champions you can pick pretty high up in the draft and not worry too much about getting countered by.
Yeah, most certainly can. As we look across towards the bans, we see Karthus and Rakan taken away by the Bandits, while Inari looking to put a more mid-lane focus towards them. The Vladimir ban and the hovered LeBlanc, we'll wait to see if that does get locked in, but if so, that is a hit to Rue. Especially in what I believe to be a Fearless series, no less.
Should be Fearless. I'd be very surprised if we're moving away from Fearless right here. Now, that is one final ban remaining for an Inari to get rid of the Fiora. Otherwise, I'd be shocked if Lars doesn't kind of just slam it. I don't know that you necessarily have to first pick it right here. I'm not certain we're going to see Oku pick it in the first couple, but I would be very surprised if Bandits do just move past that one. The Fiora's not in a good or a bad spot. She's kind of just a Fiora, as usual, and Lars is so good at that champion that it's often just not worth giving it on over. As you highlighted, the Ashe, very strong at the moment, is going to hit that ban table. Let's see what this final ban is going to be. I'm fingers crossed for Fiora because I don't want to look at it either, let alone if you're an Inari fan.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ashe ban on blue side is interesting, to say the least. Normally, we would expect that to just be picked up on B1. Evidently, Bandits, not a huge fan of it. Don't want to risk giving it over to Nico, and we'll just take it away. So we'll see what their first pick lined up is as a Sivir ban hover comes up. Is going to get locked in, so this Fiora has made its way through in this first rotation.
It does. So, like we said, not really expecting this one to be immediately taken away right here. Instead, it is just going to be that Corki slammed straight on in. Could well be into the mid lane, could well head on to Cavi down in the bottom lane. I kind of expecting it to be bottom lane at the moment. It can bully out a lot of the ADCs that we see. You can really just go toe-to-toe early on and still does a good amount of damage later on. For Inari, we don't know this team quite as well. Would have loved to have seen a couple more Division 2 games this split, but unfortunately just haven't been able to. So far, though, yeah, Pantheon, that's pretty standard for what we've been expecting.
Yeah, most certainly is. One of the strongest junglers on the patch. Is still pretty flexible towards 3 other roles at minimum, with top, mid, and support all being able to support that champion. So easy to get it in early. We'll see what the answer is to this Corki. As you would imagine, that's where this next pick comes from for the side of Inari. Likely to be an AD carry match with everything that's stuffed up on the table. Expecting something maybe a little more skirmish heavy in that bottom lane. Instead, going to see the age-old combo of Pantheon to Leah taken up.
Let's see it. I absolutely love this combo, but you have to be proactive with it. You can't afford to just sit back and let the game happen to you, otherwise things are not going to go well. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing the jungler taken right here for Lungfoa. He really liked to grab himself the Viego or the Wukong. That was kind of the main look he was going for earlier, more skirmish-based junglers. Right now, the hover on towards a Syndra for Ryu. He liked to play himself mainly just those control mages that we ended up seeing, the Syndras, the Orianas, a little bit of the Azir as well. So Syndra being locked in, I mean, Corki and Syndra, that's a lot of damage you can just dump onto somebody. At the same time, though, these are both squishy, pretty immobile as well, and do need to be careful to not get too close, because if you get Seismic shoved back into the backline, Inari can absolutely burst you down, and it will be that Wukong for Lungfoa.
Yeah, both pretty short range as well. So we are looking to see a bit more of a proactive composition from both sides with this Pantheon Talia on Inari's side and this this Wukong locked in for the Bandits. We are going to be seeing a lot more scrapping. So we'll see how Inari round this out in first rotation. There has been no Fiora pick just yet. The Xayah Hover comes in. I am a big fan of this matchup, personally. The Corki can never really aggress forwards too easily. Of course, you Valkyrie forwards, you get immediately pull back on, and you kind of just lose the boxing match at that point. I know other people really like the matchup. To each their own.
I like it in this situation because you've got yourself that feathers, and jumping up into the air to get away from a Wukong, to get away from a Syndra as well. I mean, you can time it out with the Syndra ulti. You see that Unleash power come through, that's your cue to just pop up into the ulti and get yourself out of dodge. It's pretty nice.
It most certainly is.
Fiora.
The Fiora ban comes in, second rotation, not taking any risks, matched by an Ambessa on the other side. With support and top left to pick for both sides, you would imagine there'll be at least one tank coming in a piece.
You would think so, although I gotta be honest, I've seen a lot of these top laners think, could be tanky, but I'm not so sure I want to go towards that one. We've seen quite a lot of the Camille's, the Nars recently as well. I don't think Nar could necessarily be bad for Bandits if Lars wants to grab it, but it's slightly less in the wheelhouse of champions he really likes. He does like to be aggressive. He likes to see how much he can go toe-to-toe with you in the majority of situations. Alistair is going to be taken off the board. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a Nautilus ban here as well. That pairing can be pretty potent, although I feel like both squads wouldn't mind getting away with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. The first rotation Rakan ban takes off the best option you've got with that Xayah. So picking up something like a Rel or a Nautilus would be incredible for Inari. Allows that top counter as well. As the Rel is going to be the option for denial. So it makes a lot of sense. The Nautilus, you kind of have the Valkyrie to get away as the Corki. If you get ulted as the Syndra, you can probably get a scatter off to stop someone diving on top of you. May not be the worst thing in the world if it goes over. We will see what Inari opt to go with here in the next couple of seconds. I'd imagine it is still just support. Blinding top into Lars feels a little brave at the best of times.
Ooh, although I'm
gonna hold my tongue because I'm chatting absolute lies.
Apparently so. It's just going to be that Scion lock-in right here. Now, it does give you some pretty good team fight. It gives you a little bit of longer range engage as well. In terms of the Scion matchup itself, there's a couple things that can push it around early on. If you want to take yourself a Gwen, if you want to take yourself something like the Cho'Gath, that can be pretty nice. Still, they're not really champions we've seen too much out of Lars. The Mundo, again, is a champion that he has played, but it doesn't feel like a Lars champion. It feels a little bit like just conceding this lane through. It's big, it's annoying, it runs at you, but it doesn't do the split pushing in quite the same way.
Are you sure?
In quite the same... Fiora insta-kills a tower, right?
I mean, Mundo 3 hits it.
Yeah, it depends on if you take the Demolish should do in this situation. And it is just going to be locked in, so fair enough. Alright, let's see how much he actually wants to come and join up with his team. Again, we're going to keep saying it. In the Bandits' losses, they just didn't see Lars at all. He didn't join up with them basically at any situation. There we go. It is going to be that Nautilus locked in. So the Nautilus Corki, I really like that combo. As much as it is still scary if you Valkyrie forwards towards the Xayah, I think you can get a little bit caught out with this one. And Braum, just to round things out. Now, that's a very battle-heavy bot lane, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see our junglers making their way down there.
Yeah, entirely the expectation coming in is to just see a lot of fist fighting around this bottom lane. Very skirmish heavy for Inari, whereas Bandits kind of happier to just sit and scale for a while. You know, the Mundo, the Syndra, they don't really want to get super involved in the early stages of the game. Syndra wants to get her stacks up, Mundo wants to get to his first couple of items. An even lane is a winning lane for Mundo at the end of the day. The Braum, a very, very good pickup just to try and deny some of the outright engage coming in from Bandits, as well as block a good chunk of their damage, considering both their carries are playing from a range and typically rely on some kind of skill shot. Now the question becomes, which draft do you like more, Blocks?
Ooh, which draft do I like more? I think with enough early aggression, if Inari can get it off between the Pantheon and the Talia, I'm not talking pre-level 6, but the second that level 6 comes through, if you're roaming into these side lanes, just immediately blowing people up, I really like that. At the same time, though, I do think Bandits just have that little bit easier to execute. You just pop your ulti off of the Syndra, just chuck a bit of extra damage down off of Cavi onto any of these squishier carries, and they should just go down. I think I do slightly prefer what Inari have for themselves, but these compositions, I don't look at either of them and go, that's never going to work, there's nothing you can do to play with this.
Yeah, largely in agreement myself. I think both can work under the right circumstances. I think I'm leaning a little bit more to Bandits. If the game starts to go late, definitely in their favor. The damage starts to fall off from Inari at about 25, 30 minutes, a little bit. Of course, Talia and Xayah, no slouch in their carries rightly, but with what is essentially 3 stat check champions on the enemy team, it becomes very hard to match them.
Absolutely, it does. Still, we've seen that Bandits can sometimes fall into a problem where you need yourself a big tank in your big team fights. They've got themselves a big tank in the Mundo, but if it's never joining up and you are split pushing but not getting too much from it, this Inari composition can definitely win out in a 4v5 situation and make it quite tricky to play.
Torso makes split pushing quite hard because you can collapse on sides very effectively with that Talia Pantheon, as you were mentioning earlier. That being said, I think across the board, we're going to see a bloody game.
Yes, most likely. I would be very surprised if it doesn't get quite aggressive quite early on.
It absolutely should. That being said, before we go ahead and head on into the game, I think we're going to give the teams a second to load onto the Rift, get their drafts, their runes set up properly, and throw it to a very quick break. So when we come back, we'll be on the Rift for game number 1 of this best of 3. Don't go anywhere, because it proves to be promising.
To hold our heads up high and beat the drum to what we love.
Division 2. Who cares? They're not going to be able to do very well, but Division 2 teams have a real history in the UKL of doing incredibly well for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Bandits started out as a Division 2 team in and of themselves. I think we've had a couple of teams have come up from the 5IQ. Another one came up from Division 2, made it all the way to finals in their first split with us. There are plenty of teams that have come up through promotion relegations and really, really impressed. Paragon, another one, as we head on to the Rift for game number 1. We'll see just if there's any level 1 shenanigans. That being said, Max, what are you expecting early jungle paths to be in this game?
I would not be surprised if we see our junglers both start up towards the top lane and head down towards the bottom side of the map. I mean, this bottom lane could be incredibly explosive. Anytime you've got yourself a Nautilus, you can try for some early shenanigans. Then again, the Braum, one of those best level ones. You hit yourself a Winter's Bite, and you can just immediately get some CC off, take someone down, to at least blow a couple of flashes, and it is going to be those barriers down in the bottom side. You've also got yourself the Ignite right here onto the bottom side for Bandits, so they are looking to get aggressive with Oerpers.
Yeah, most certainly are. That Unsealed Spellbook does allow for a little bit more flexibility, of course, but the aggression should be unadulterated, especially making use of the early power of a Corki. As mentioned, one of these stat check champions, which are very rare for AD carry, but he did, with his rework, did get turned into a little bit of a stat checker.
Oh yeah, early on, definitely.
Oh, yes, 100%. Champion is insanely strong in the early game for no real reason other than funny.
Yep. Yeah, because, have fun, good luck, see you next time, basically, yeah. It is strong, and in something like the Xayah that kind of needs that 2-item spike to really start hitting, yeah, she can be fine in the early game. If you manage to pull those feathers back and get that layering of CC down, that's where you put yourself in a very good spot, but in terms of just the raw early damage from a Xayah, it's not that strong.
Yeah, no, as I say, it's only really a favorable matchup if the Corki tries to W forwards. The first hook lands onto Maraka from Oerpers. Able to get a good chunk down as now Caviar going to try and trade up with Nico. Though, taking a good chunk there, Double Dagger's doing a lot of work. Trading across the map, and it seems you would, in fact, have been correct, Max. Both junglers starting up towards that top side, pathing down, really looking to get a early lead going in this bottom side. Of course, the earlier lead you can get onto your AD carry, the better it comes, as we see. Barrier was blown by Nico in an exchange in the bottom side. There was the only summoner blown, and under tower, no less.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you lose that whilst already sat that far back is pretty bad. And we can also see, as we're watching these junglers go on through, Lungfo just clearing that a little bit faster with the Wukong than his counterpart on a Pantheon will be able to. We'll see if that's going to turn into anything in the bottom lane. Obviously, you're not expecting Bandits to gank onto this bottom side of the map. It would turn into a tower dive if you're trying for that. But instead, a potential counter gank could be really nice. That's something that Wukong can do effectively, even if your ganks pre-level 6 are a lot weaker than that of a Pantheon's.
Yeah, most certainly are. That being said, still no slouch in the damage department.
Nope.
If you can, in fact, get in. As a teleport's coming in the mid lane. And it looks like Oerpy is here, ready to punish. He's going to look for the seismic shove, not going to find it. A lot of damage coming down, but Ryu, still an early game Syndra, doesn't have everything in the tank. A lot of damage coming down here, though. From Oerpy. Maraka flashing forward, finds the heal, and this Talia still lives. Concussive blows comes down, and in comes Nact for the first blood. A good attempt coming in from the Bandits. They nearly find their mark, but it's just not quite enough.
It doesn't feel like anybody's on the same page in that situation, right? You can see Oerpers, he's trying fully to get that kill, going forwards, using the flash, using the ignite. Aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. Whereas Ryu, he kind of doesn't want it, right? He's not actually trying to go as full forwards. They don't even get that full combo off. Lunkafoa, obviously, Wukong is slippery still. He's surrounded.
He is indeed. Jumps into both the members of the bot lane, flashes away from the Winter's Bite. Concussive blows not going to get procced.
They might try to steal this back as well. Yep, there you go. Lunkafoa is still going to be able to take that one away. The 3-man scatter the weak out of Ryu is what is able to secure that one. Gets people stunned back, buys a little bit of time for Lunkafoa, and smites that one away. So it works out in the end still. Lunkafoa does blow the flash in that situation, which again is just another tool taken away from the Bandits jungler.
That it is. Valkyrie going to be used to safety there from Caviar. in that bottom lane as Nat was looking for a little bit of a gank opportunity. The Winter's Bite had connected. It would have been all hands on deck. Just falls slightly short as another invade from Lunka comes in. Nat taking that first reset of the game. He says chickens will be the forfeit.
Yeah, Lungfo has just been all over the jungle right here of Nat, and the more that he can take away, the harder it's going to be to just play out this Pantheon. Both Pantheon and the Wukong champions, in my mind, that you very much need to keep yourself at least on pace with. You begin to fall behind and you're not actually that tanky. You're relying on having things like the Sundered to just have that extra healing, you know, and there's even a little bit of extra survivability on top of the Pantheon, of course, with the shield, but if you're too far behind, it won't really matter. And the fact that we've already got quite a decent chunk of gap in CS is nice. Obviously, that's going to be made up for at the moment through the kills. But if you can keep this up as Lungfo, that's another way to just put the Inari jungler behind and make playing out this game that little bit harder for them.
Absolutely, of course, that is going to be a little bit offset by that first blood.
Yep.
Went into Nat's back pocket, so you're going to have to put in a little bit more work to even the stakes out again. Hasn't been a counter invade just yet coming in from Nat as a bit of a fight happens on towards the bottom side. Root lands from the Blade Caller onto a Werpy. Not going to find the concussive blows just yet. The Winter's Bite goes ever so slightly wide onto Kavir, trying to predict a backstep or the Valkyrie or something. Maraka not quite able to find his mark.
No, and that's one of the nice things right there about the Corki, is kind of the whole time that you're in that trade with the Gatling gun, you're also just able to take down the CS. You're not losing out onto anything because you're having to push back a little bit of extra damage. So the bot lane of Bandits do need to be a little bit careful if they push too far forwards. Nat is in the area, and I'm not surprised that we see our junglers down on the bottom side of the map. We have got our first Drake available, and it is going to be an Infernal, always a juicy one for anybody to grab.
Yeah, most certainly is. It and Hextech, arguably the two best standalone Drakes to pick up.
Yep.
We'll see if anybody makes any move for that here in just a second. Taking stock of the game as it stands, the CS leads in every single role for the Bandits. Incredibly so in the bottom lane, sitting at a 22 CS lead for Kavir. Really put Nico into the dirt with that early shove under tower as Nat looking into the mid lane onto Rue. Because we have a bit of a stop in place.
Oh, there we go.
Find the stun. There is no seismic shove though, as this is all just used full combo to clear the wave, I believe. And Rouge gonna be able to walk that one away. Dragon going to be forfeited across, but could look for grubs.
Yeah, this is now going to be Inari moving up towards the top side. The grub's still 40 seconds away, though, and that's going to be plenty of time right here for Lungfo to take down this Infernal and head topside if he wants to. His mid laner is obviously going to have to go and take a reset. Doesn't have the teleport available, but should have more than enough time as well. So just some slightly better timing out of Bandits, not too surprising. It wasn't really that they were losing out in terms of map rotation when they were losing in Div 1. As like you said, they had that carousel of players, and they were just sort of losing in individual lanes sometimes their team fights just weren't as clean. So right now, doing well enough for themselves. Not really up by any kind of gold lead. Again, that's going to be that first blood keeping things even. But with the CS leads in all of the lanes, see what they can turn that into in terms of just items. Nico, low.
Double cancels on towards the AD carry and support of Inari there from Kavir and Werpy. Able to keep them in lane just that little bit longer. Means that now the inside line is in favor of the Bandits up towards these grubs, and of course a Wukong level 6 in a all-out brawl, much more useful than that Pantheon's level 6. Nat is moving back down now, as we see both Lars and Rue getting first move into the river here. Is not going to find the combo onto the Syndra, going to get tagged by the scatter though, so that is now on cooldown as we can see the first big 3v3 of the game. Both supports moving in as well as Lars has found the slow onto Nat, forces the flash away. Not a lot of CC to go down just yet when it's by tag. A flash away from Lunka. He's going back to the grubs. Now the rest of the fight can truly start to happen. Nat gets caught by the depth charge and goes down as Lunka rejoins the fight with the Cyclone. Ziz has to flash away, but will get flashed back on by a Werpy. Flash for flash trade that we saw earlier. Maraka caught off to the side by Lars and Lunka. Oku doing what he can to just buy space for his mid laner to escape, retreat to the safety of the mid lane tower. So we just wait for the game to unpause.
I quite like these freeze frames, these tableaus, where we get to sort of just see midway through. You're expecting that this is going to be Maraka going down in just a second. I don't think Oku should go down. I'd be very surprised as well if we end up seeing a mid laner fall here. Doesn't really look like it. Hang on. Back to
We're
us.
back with us.
Hello.
Seems there is just a little bit of an issue with spectating the game at present. So you've got us back. Hello. Hi. It did look like Lars was just about to throw a banjo at Maraka's head, so likely going to drop down there. Oku probably too high health that it looks like Ziz was able to buy enough space. I don't think there's another flash available, and Rue not having enough in the tank to really push too much there to try and aim for the Talia. That being said, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, we could see this fight completely turn around in the end, and all of a sudden Inari end up winning it. I think we'd both be very surprised by that. That looks like it's going to be a pretty well-won fight right here for the Bandits, and that's going to be them grabbing all three of the grubs most likely. You should be able to peel back and grab those if you do end up winning out on this fight, and you get a bunch of kills, and that's off of the back of what looked like it was going to be a pretty good fight for Inari, actually. Oku, he gets three people, I think, with that unstoppable onslaught, and that's pretty big at this point in the game, but you don't really do as much damage as the Scion right now, and as we were highlighting just seconds before the fight breaks out, you have yourself that level 6 available for Lungfu with the Wukong, and there's just no way to use a Pantheon ulti in this point. You're trying to ult in from further away. Once the skirmish has already started, it's kind of nothing that you can do, and unfortunately, that small difference is what's making this team fight very good for the Bandits, and kind of just a rough one here for Inari.
I mean, it's not even like it's just one ultimate they're losing. It is, in fact, two, with the Talia ultimate also not being of great use to you in the middle of a fight. So you're looking at Unleashed Power and Cyclone versus Grand Starfall and Weaver's Wall.
Yeah.
You're missing two ultimates from a
Yeah.
key fight around a key objective, and it shows in this situation. Nat just drops like a sack of bricks the second any ultimates were unleashed on top of them. And it just kind of, there wasn't enough in the tank from
Yeah.
everybody else. We're too early in the game, really, for Talia to be doing a huge amount of damage. The Braum and the Scion are just there to soak up a few hits. The Pantheon is the majority of your early damage, and if this bridge cannot start to continue to find leads and bridge further, things get much harder.
It does indeed. Unfortunately, we have had a little bit of a spectator issue, as we said. We're just going to try to get that one fixed, so we're just going to chuck it over to another short break, and we'll hopefully be back as soon as possible. Hopefully it's short. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back, everybody. We come bearing very unfortunate news. The spectator bugs have returned. They've crawled into the systems. They've eaten their way through the wires. We can't get back into game number one to continue this. So we're going to go on a bit of an extended break ahead of game number two. We'll be back when the draft for that one starts, ready to continue to discuss the results of game number one and run through draft ready for game number two. Fingers crossed this doesn't happen again this evening. but only time shall tell. We will be back as soon as we can. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After game 1 has concluded and draft should be just around the corner for game number 2, game 1 did in the end go towards the Bandits. Now,
very quickly.
Very quickly,
We're
yes.
back
We were sat here
very
for maybe
fast.
another 10 minutes, 15 tops after we left, and we were only about, what, 9-10 minutes into the game to begin with, so there was about a 20-25 minute win. Incredibly swift coming in from the Bandits side. That's kind of what we expected, right? We said if this fight goes their way, they inch, and in the end, Lunker made sure it was not just inching, it was a straight sprint to the finish line.
I mean, what, 25 minutes, 40 seconds in the end. Lunker ends up 15-0-8 on his Wukong, so very impressive from him. But nobody really does badly right here. I mean, it's 9 kills overall for the side of Inari. They do not get a foothold into this game whatsoever. And it looks like nobody particularly was doing super bad. I do think that Nico specifically wasn't having the best time, but sort of everybody wasn't really able to get a foothold in. Nat ended up with 6-8-1, so, you know, a couple kills on the Pantheon was maybe able to claw things back a little bit, but, I mean, in a 25-minute win, you probably didn't even get the Baron, right? I don't think 40 seconds from getting the Baron to ending the game usually happens. They probably just walked that one straight through. Very dominant victory. This is kind of what we were overall expecting, as we've said before the game started, right? Who do you think's going to win? I think Bandits are going to be able to take this one. They did look impressive towards the end of the Division 1 split. Still, 25 minutes, very fast.
It's very fast indeed. It's faster than we would expect out of a lot of teams. Best times. I'm going to be honest with you, there's a good chance probably Atakan didn't even go down in the end. It's just not enough time to get everything done. That being said, there's plenty of time for us to go over the draft. It would seem that Inari opted to stay on the red side coming into game number 2. So we'll see if there's any major adjustments to draft. Of course, all 10 champions from game number 1 are done. They're finished. No more. So that means that the Mundo, the Wukong, the Syndra, the Corki, the Nautilus, the Scion, the Pantheon, the Talia, the Xayah, and the Braum are all off the table coming into this match point game in favor of the Bandits. And we'll see if they can just walk this one home.
Yeah, hopefully for the Bandits, they're going to be able to just get this one done. I don't think that winning this right here straight promotes you. I think you then fight up against the top team. Then that will be a promotion match, and then the loser of that fights against whoever wins between the two losers and goes through. We will be promoting 2 teams, relegating 2 teams. So still a little ways off of having our teams in Division 1 confirmed. Still, as we were saying, though, things are moving through pretty swiftly throughout the early stages of this draft. Nothing too much changing. I think it's also very interesting that Inari stick out onto the red side, a red side that they didn't even use to counter Lars in the previous game.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. The decision to hold the Braum till 5, I mean, it makes some level of sense. Support is a very important counter pick. No major changes on bans across the series. The Ashe was changed out for a Renekton, but Lars throwing down the gauntlet. He didn't do it in game number 1, but the blue one, Fiora. Max, I'm living for it.
It's back, baby, and I mean, this was just ridiculous. What was it? It was a Vertex roster, I think, that he dragged that roster through. I mean,
Verzik.
Verzik, that was it. No insults to the other players on his team, but it was legitimately 1v9 every single game that they won, and on the Fiora, he was able to do it. Clearly, in this game, they don't even need Lars to fully pop off, but if they do, it could be very fun. Now, back then, Ambessa didn't exist. She was probably in earlier stages of development, so this is going to be a little bit more of an interesting matchup, and yeah, I'm seeing it. That is going to be a Nidalee on our screens. I mean, please, this is a Longfor special. He loves this champion.
I think we're seeing the one tricks come out in this game.
Why not?
A Nidalee, a Rengar, a Fiora. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's throw caution to the wind. We're going for a bloodbath.
Oh yeah, there we go. Alrighty. And I really like the Renekton in this game already because, I mean, you're kind of ignoring top lane. Top lane is just all about what Lars can do. But in terms of just early skirmishing power, you can bully around a Nidalee with this champion. You get later on into the game, and paired up right here alongside an Inari, a single charm lands, drag somebody a little bit closer to a bush, you can just eviscerate them off of the map. Inari are going to have to play this one out very, very carefully. Let's see what Tizzy has to take into this Ahri. We've seen a lot of kind of just standard control mage matchups into this quite a lot, although it's very safe with the Ahri. It's quite hard to punish unless you want to get super aggressive with it.
Yeah, it really, really is. And that puts Inari in a bit of an interesting spot, opting not even to counter match up mid lane on 3 hit, instead going to grab their support and likely ban away counters towards it is the standard thing we tend to see here. They can grab the mid laner on 4, it's Ari, it doesn't really matter what you play into it. It's going to be some kind of standard mage, I'd wager.
Yeah, absolutely. You would usually expect to see that, although in this game, right, I mean, you don't really have a ball delivery system for an Orianna. The Azir, I don't know how much you really want to be pulling this one through. Bandits, they're going to get rid of the Victor. This composition, it doesn't quite have as much of a full identity to me yet. Wow, that was tough to say. I might be
Chuff!
tired. I might be way too tired for this right now. Oh boy. I would like to see them go a little bit more into getting very aggressive down in this bottom lane, because the Ambessa into Fiora matchup is less of one you're really expecting to be quite so explosive. Mid lane 2 should be more about the roaming that actually happens in the 1v1s. So do you have something very aggressive bot lane?
Time will tell. This Ashe was taken away in game number 1 in first rotation for the Bandits. That Renekton ban coming in to supplement the Fiora B1, I'd wager, and the Ashe not being picked away is a bit of a stroke of luck for the side of the Bandits. They're not opting to play it themselves again this game, despite it fitting quite nicely. Varus was left open, the other majorly supportive AD carry pick coming in. On the other side, the Sivir still taken away, so the other kind of supportive AD carry taken off the field as Nico looking towards a Kai'Sa, still not just matching the mid lane pick on this Ari, opting to leave it till 5.
Unless this is a Nidalee mid lane, which, I mean, I'd be surprised by it being a Nidalee mid lane, but we could see it. I really like this, though. I'm going to say, Alistar had been left open, the alley really strong, and the Aphelios. If anybody here watched the Division 1 Grand Finals, we had an Aphelios pentakill for Spark, which was incredibly hyped to watch, and this champion, kind of just insane at the moment. That being said, this isn't exactly the Aphelios game that I would usually think of. What, your jungler doesn't want to protect you at all. Your mid laner, I guess the charm maybe is a bit of protection, but not really. Same with your top laner. It's kind of just this Alistar versus the world. And that is the other problem with picking yourself up the Alistar early on. If you haven't banned away the Sylas with that Unbreakable Will is miserable to play into.
Also the Spirit Rush for laning phase. Also the Rengar to jump on the Aphelios. Also the Moonlight Vigil, depending on which one he steals. So there's all
or
of these
even the challenge in a straight 1v1.
Yeah,
you know?
Grand Challenge in a straight 1v1 is also perfectly fine. So
Yeah.
Welcome back. We should be back on the Rift very, very shortly, with some fingers crossed that we don't encounter any more tech issues. Now, we've seen the drafts, and Bandits opting for a very, very spicy way to try and close this series out in the clean 2-0 fashion. And if they do, it should only be about a 22-minute game. On the other side, a much more standardized composition with a surprise Nidalee coming in from Inari. So, what are we expecting at a base level out of this game, Max?
Early on, I'm interested in seeing what these junglers decide to do. Does Nat get really aggressive? Does Lunkafor also try to just get into the backline, see what they can do? There's always a chance that this game turns spicy very, very quickly, and I would be incredibly happy to see that. Still, everything I'm looking at, I'm just like, oh, I really like a lot of what these teams have put together for themselves. And then I look at this Nidalee, I'm like, does it work, right? Hey, there's a chance we get later on into the game, the Nidalee has 20 kills and you're just one-tapping people with spears. But do I think that that's likely? Not really.
Especially when you are contending with the Fiora, you are contending with the Rengar, the Ari, even the Aphelios. Once he gets the 2-3 items, he's even going to start becoming a real long-range threat. So time really is going to be what tells in the longer run. That being said, are we expecting any one player to stand out in this game?
I think this is the game for Lunkafor, right? We can talk
Last
about
game was the game
Lars's
for Lunkafor
Fiora
as well.
for every day. But Lunkafor has every opportunity to pop all the way off here. And looking at the other champions, right? We see Ari sometimes pop off, but I don't know about you. I personally, I'm not a massive Ari fan. Not because I think it's bad, necessarily. Just because even the big, flashy, great plays, it's one charm that lands, right? Oh, the Q goes across multiple people. It doesn't have that big oomph that a lot of those mid laners bring you with big ultis or big spells that they have. And again, as we were talking about earlier, right, this is not necessarily the Aphelios Dreams Game of Dreams that I would be thinking about. He doesn't have a lot in front of him, does Cavi, to really keep him safe. If he is able to space well, you can always pop off with this champion, right?
As an Aphelios player, it's not a great Aphelios. It's not my dream Aphelios game either. No. But yes, you can always find angles to pop off on this champion, especially once you get to those 2, 3, 4 item breakpoints, and you do just start to hit people for a quarter of their health per shot. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the Rift for game number 2, and what could be the last game in this series tonight. Time shall tell how it goes. We see a bit of a 5-man invade caught out by Rue very, very effectively. He's still going to dash over the wall to try and get some vision. But other than that, it's just going to be standard.
I gotta be honest here, Luna. I've had a quick flick through trying to find out if maybe there's just a ton of games played by Nat right here onto this champion, right? This is his thing. Unless I'm looking in the wrong places, which I shouldn't be. I don't think so. Really not a lot of Nidalee play. This is not like a pocket pick of dreams, as you would usually expect, right? Usually, if you're a Nidalee player, you're a Nidalee player, and you play a ton of this champion. So we'll see. There's always a potential chance that I'm looking at the wrong account. Maybe this is an account that doesn't play it as much, and he's got a second one where all of the Nidalee games are. But from the quick little look I've been having,
Yankos cosplay.
That's always true. That's always true. In that case, Lunkafor, even bigger props to him for the previous game.
Time shall tell as we see Lars sitting up by this red buff Lunka, moving up as well, and the smite's already been used by Nat just to try and make the clue a bit better. He's walked face first into them. Flash comes down, but it doesn't matter as the leap out of the bush from Lunka seals his fate once more. First blood goes to Lunka.
And that's something that can happen with the early Nidalee. You can just get jumped, and I love this from Lars, joining up with his jungler, going and getting involved, realizing that you can concede some of the early laning phase on this Fiora. And yeah, it's not ideal. You would love to just be bullying out your opponent top laner as quickly as possible, but you're Lars, you're on your signature champion, it's going to be just fine, and getting Lunkafor ahead on this Rengar is going to be a heck of a lot more important.
It most certainly is. Rengar, a very feast or famine champion, and that is 2 camps stolen away from the enemy Nidalee. A very tempo-reliant champion, a very snowball-reliant champion. Dropping to this Rengar is going to be painful. Uncertain if it's going to continue this way. That being said, if Lunka continues on this form he's shown throughout game 1 and the start of this game, it's very, very likely.
Absolutely. We'll have a look at what the rest of this early laning phase is going to look like, because so far you're just getting into your own jungle here. As Longfellow to take a couple of camps, is that going to be able to get into his opponent's jungle and try to start stealing things away? Because you cannot afford to fall behind on this Nidalee. We talk about tempo-based champions. I think that that's the exact same thing for the Nidalee too. A champion that's very squishy, has some decent mobility, but really you have to be strong enough to be able to jump face first into your opponent's in Koga form. If you don't have that and you're just having to sit back, throw out the spears, use those auto attacks in human form, you're really not going to be anywhere near as effective.
Nat questioning, debating what to do. We can see Lunka just opting to play the split map. Ward goes down, or sorry, Trap goes down as the scuttles are started for both sides.
Oh.
This is a bit brawling in the top lane. Oku.
Oh, Lars Fiora gets a solo kill. I feel like I've heard that said on the UKL a billion times already, and this wasn't even a particularly impressive split. Hang on. Oh, Lars. Lars, just walk away. Your jungler is here. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. Lars just knows that he's got it. I mean, Lugfo's in the area. He's just going to end up stealing away a couple of Krugs as a little bit of extra insurance. Bot lane.
Kavia going low is ignited up by Maraka. Trample stun comes down onto Nico. The Aphelios not able to stand up to the Kai'Sa in the early stages in terms of damage. Really does struggle in the first few levels. Of course, not having an ability at that level 1 and still sitting on an awkward gun combo in the Severum Calibrum duo. See, Oku TP's back. Immediately takes a fifth of his health from vitals.
Ouch. Ryu, now potentially under threat right here from that, is gonna arrive. Gets the charm off though, and this should result in him surviving. Yep, just gonna be able to walk away. And Luna, up in the top lane, this is meant to be a counter matchup here for the Ambessa, right? Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh
Maraka
no.
knocked down the tower, flashes, finds the showering strike, but another tower shot lands. And Kavia picks up the third kill of the game. Not a single one going across to Inari. Nico has to flash away, but he's flashed after by a Werpy. Gonna find the trample stun once again, and it's another kill given across to the side of Kavia. Lunka there just to pick up that bone tooth necklace stack, and it's a 4-0. Our producers throwing question marks. We're throwing question marks, and the bandits are looking for yet another heist.
So, you know when we said this might be a 22-minute game?
Do you want to
If
bring
the
that down a bit?
Bandits get a lead, we might have undersold quite how fast this game could turn. I really like that we're seeing the gold right here. Big gap down at the bottom lane. Big gap happening in the jungle as well. That's 600 gold in the jungle already. I didn't actually get to see what the gap top lane was, but I'm imagining it's a bit of a canyon as well. Yep, thank you very much, though. 400 gold up in the top lane. Again, in what we were just talking about, meant to be a counter matchup. I think part of the reason why this counter doesn't look like it here is usually when you see Ambessas into the Fiora, you see an Ambessa that's gone aggressive and taken the ignite to sort of cut through some of that healing, make it a bit harder, and potentially even get a solo kill early on. Without it, just matching teleport for teleport, the Fiora is just going to be able to survive a little bit longer. So, bot lane.
Thought. Maraka gonna get stunned up there by Graviton.
Good
Forces the
flash.
flash out of Kavia. Pulverize doing good work. Headbutt jumps away from the Void Seeker, and the Phase Rush procs. Where Peter start running away.
The body block.
Nat looking for the spear. It's going to attack Tower Shot. Another auto will land. Another root comes in. And Gavi is just spacing this perfectly. Maraka goes one auto from dead, but there's no flash to follow. But Ryu, he's on his way down. Not going to be able to walk in just yet. But the bot lane and the Bandits survive by the skin of their teeth.
Just about. Still, you say skin of your teeth, and yeah, technically, but I feel like that was Bandits fighting back. That was just a lot of extra aggression coming on through. Ryu again stepping away. This Silas.
Oh. Good night, Oku.
Yeah, they gave Lars Fiora. I mean, look, for
that was a Lunka kill. That was an ultimate coming through.
I know Lunka's there, but like
ferocious
again,
predator coming in to pick up that one.
So to the winner, most likely,
between
natives of Paragon, Fiora, just ban it. Just ban it. Just get rid of it. Now, if you're being forced...
We've taught this lesson on several occasions.
I wish Brack was here for the meme. I don't own the meme. It's Brack's meme.
I don't have it either.
If Brack's in chat, we need the meme stat.
That's another one.
Bot
Red
lane
White,
as well.
do not fight, Maraka!
Yikes. Yep, that's now going to be 6-0, 3,500 gold lead at this point for the Bandits. 3-0-0 as well, right here onto Caviampia, and this game is getting a little bit out of hand. We've only just got the grub spawning at this point, Luna.
Yeah, this is insane. This is wild. Flash over the wall, or Hex Flash over the wall coming in from Owerpi there. And Cavia Vampire, it may not be an Aphelio's dream game, but definitely making do with what he's got. And doing
Yep.
incredibly well to boot, might I add.
Hey, it doesn't matter if it's the perfect game. If you can just body your opponents in the 1v1s, 2v2s down in the bottom side of the map, we're going to see Lungfoa take himself those grubs as Lars, again, just pushing Oku away, gets to that level 8 as well. And Oku, without that public execution, has no way to fight right now. You're still sat with that grand duel right here onto Lars, so you are in just such a strong position.
That you are. Void Grubs go down. It's the first neutral taken. Dragon still up and available. Maraka in the mid lane to try and give some pressure relief to Ziz, who's being bullied under his own tower. As you would expect in the early stages of this matchup. 3 Dark Seals in the game across the board. 2 on the side of Inari, 1 on the side of Bandits. And it's on people who are yet to be involved in any kind of takedown whatsoever in the game. So solid pickup at this point just for the base stats. This dragon could be the focus of Inari here. TP back into mid lane from Ziz.
Okay. So, Yomu's completed for Lungfoa. He's going to be moving very fast. Coming back out of base right now. A little bit delayed here to this dragon. So there is the potential option that you are going to be able to just take this one away. There's not really any vision. And I don't know if Lungfoa is just, going to take his red buff. Not really interested in getting involved in this initial Drake. So that's something, right? As we were talking about. Okay, they're arriving. They're going to fight this.
They are. A good pulverize knocks up all 3. Kavia now having to try and sidestep. Ziz flashes forwards, finds the Kingslayer, finds the Abduct, and while the Moonlight Vigil may try burn through the side of Inari with the light of the moon, it's just not enough. Nico, meanwhile, on the backside, going to get caught up by Lunka.
God.
And in comes Rue to clean up the rest. It's a double kill coming in for this Ari. Ziz finds Lunka on the shutdown, but it's yet another notch on the bone tooth necklace coming in for this Rengar. And this Ari more than happy to finally be involved from 0 to 5 on the seal.
I mean, yeah, that's a little bit of an odd one, right? I think Bandits, they just overestimated the survivability they had down on the bottom lane. I mean, at that point, it kind of was just Cavi getting walked at, and you needed Lungfoa there a little bit quicker. Still, once you do finally manage to roam a couple of your members down, things get very good. But it was a couple of big shutdowns as well, picked up by the Inari members. Specifically, Diz is able to grab quite a lot, and as we were talking about, right, Silas with that ulti available from the Alistar, and honestly from a lot of different champions, but specifically the Unbreakable Will, that's so strong. The gold gaps are still monumental, though.
It is. The reason it's so strong is because it's not actually scaling armor on Amara, it's just flat damage reduction. For those of you who are unaware how Unbreakable works, it is just a scaling flat reduction per rank in the ability. And that is incredibly strong because there are very few flat damage reduction anythings in the game. I believe Briar may be one of the only other champions. Well, there's a grand challenge he's using the top lane, and Lars just going to find yet another solo kill onto Oku. Ban this champion, ladies and gentlemen, if you come up against it. 4 members strong in the bottom side.
We said how much split pushing were we really going to get on the Mundo. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see. Oh, okay, I mean, Lungfoa.
Maraka going low, flash out. Nat finds Lunka on the execute in the meanwhile, but Kavia is the other threat in this instance. Happy to look onto Maraka. Stun comes down from the crash down, but Shattering Strike goes a little bit wide. No pulverize finds.
Guys!
Down we go for Owerpi. Ziz able to steal that Spirit Rush away, looking onto Rue. Kavia once again finding that Moonlight Vigil from the Infernum. Gravitum still now up and available, finds the Rue onto Rue, steps forward, still gets caught by the crash down on this poor little lady. Carry is left in the midst of death and destruction. Lars is still finding Oku on the top side, flash for flash, right then not quite. Still has flash available. Could keep looking. Just going to keep lunging forwards. Flash finds the lunge. Procs the vital.
One more.
Doesn't quite have it again. There's the next one. One more auto and a killing spree for Lars on the top side. But Inari are fighting back, and they're fighting back hard.
Yeah, I mean, this game is very messy. I feel like Lungfo needs to be reminded that, yes, you're on your signature champion. You can rip people's heads off on this Rengar, but also, you're very, very squishy. He keeps stepping a little bit too far forwards. And again, towers do hurt. We've seen a lot of bad tower dives in the UKL. Tiz is gonna go in quite far, and I mean, now you're gonna get turned around on. The healing, though, pretty big. No mana. He's dead.
There is nothing left in the tank for this Silas. One more auto will do it. Kavia picks up his 5th of the game.
Did Nat try to kill Lars, seeing he had no health and no mana, and then realize that there's nothing you can do versus, well, that?
Yeah, I believe that is what we stood there watching. First items now coming in for pretty much everybody in this game. When this reset gets through for Kavia, you'd imagine that Collector will be finished. We'll leave Awerpi, the only member in the game not sitting on that first item. Speaking of Awerpi, going to get engaged on here
Oh,
by
big damage.
Maraka. Unbreakable Will comes down, but in goes the Kai'Sa, that Killer Instinct finding its path. Trying to get the stun down, but not quite able to find it. And with no mana on your AD carry and a pretty awkward gun combo when you have none, is just going to fall.
Yeah, nothing you can really do there. Bandits, again, over-aggressing, and it's leaving them with a couple less kills than they would have otherwise liked. So 5, 1, and 3 right now onto their ADC. Cavi still hasn't actually been able to finish up that first item. Still working on towards that one. Ryu also going to come on down. Lands the charm only onto the support, though.
Still no mana on this Eddie carry, as you say, not being able to find that reset as Ziz joins the fray. Lunka is in the area, looks for the jump in, finds the route onto Maraka, finds a second to follow, but can't jump in all on his lonesome. Lars, meanwhile, just split pushing through this top lane. We've seen so many games fall to Lars' split pushing. Are we going to see another notch on his rapier? We may indeed.
Every
Dragon.
time that it's just a Ravenous Hydra auto, and it's just all of his health. Oh no, Lunka, what are you doing?
Jumps in, gets absolutely one shot. Nico picks up that kill. There's no Kavia here this time, and it's a dragon looking in the sights of Inari. This does have an objective bounty. The gold lead enough. Ziz going to get charmed, jump trying to move forward, but Kavia has stopped moving towards this fight. He's moving up towards the mid lane. The tier 2 in the top lane falls. Lars is getting a lot of free time to do whatever he so pleases in this game, but there's very little that the rest of the bandits can do.
Lars is having a good time by himself, but this was kind of the problem that the bandits were running into when they didn't have Lungfo around, when they were moving people about on the rest of the map as well. They were finding that Lars was just sat in the side lane, constantly pushing, not really joining up with the rest of the team, and they weren't necessarily winning elsewhere on the map. Now, Lungfo, he was 3-0, and just keeps leaping in like he's going to be able to one-tap somebody with just a Yomu's in inventory. That's not the case. That's not the amount of damage you're going to be doing here on this Rengar. And then you are very squishy. He's just getting one-tapped straight on back. Right now, Bandits, they need to be very careful to not start giving away too much gold to Inari and allow them a proper route back into this game.
Yeah, need to just try and continue in the strength that they found in the early stages. Look for picks and not massive fights, as the mid lane tier 1 will fall and Crashdown is cancelled. Trample Stun comes in, but this AD carry still not sitting on a huge amount of damage at this point. Still wants to hit that 2 items point. Is now Lunka looking onto Oku. Lars finds onto Ziz in the bottom lane. One more vital will do it as Nat's doing what he can. A lot of damage coming down. Healing comes in from Ziz. Riposte comes down as the Chain Lash will find its mark. Oku going to fall in the top lane, but Lars will get shut down in the 2v1 on the bottom side.
And that's the thing, right? With this Nidalee, you really don't think about how much damage he's really going to be doing. At this point in the game, it's actually not that much, even with the Lich Bane, but it's the healing that you're actually getting on through that's keeping your Silas alive, already going to be healing a decent amount just through his own spells too. And between them, they take down Lars. Still, that's 2 people fighting onto 1, and it took that much damage, that much health off of them to be able to complete that kill. But you do also trade it back for Oku in the top lane. We've now got ourselves the Herald up. That's going to be started up by the Bandits, and I think taken pretty easily. I'd be surprised if we get any kind of steal right now.
Is the teleport coming into the pit
Oh,
from
never
Oku
mind.
and Ziz, though? Both of them being dropped on this one objective. They do not want to give this away without a fight, as Lunka gonna get found. Does get hit by the public execution. Has to flash away. Still goes down. Killer Instinct was used. And now a Werpy may be stuck as well. Finds the Pulverize onto 2. But with 5 members strong in the top side, River, Lunka just gonna get caught out once again.
That's now a fourth death in a row right here for Lungfo. Just hasn't been able to get any more effective plays on down. Keeps on getting caught out trying for these objectives. And it's a good teleport used right there from Inari. They are fighting back. They're showing that they don't want to lose this game in 22 or so minutes. They want to go to at least a game number 3. Now remember, this is not going to be the end of either of these two teams. The winner still has to face the winner of the other matchup we've got going on right now between Natives and Paragon, and the loser still has to go and fight against the loser of that matchup. Then we'll end up promoting 2 of the teams after the next couple of rounds. So this is not the end of it all, but Inari still, they don't want to lose 2-0 to the Bandits, and they are fighting their way back into a game that looked so bad at the start.
That they are, as Lars looking onto Ziz, but Moraka and Nat round the corner. Or if he's going to get caught out, headbutt backwards onto Ziz towards the rest of his team. Does steal away the Unbreakable Will, however, and is taking next no damage.
Oh
In goes
boy.
Lunka, but gets nearly one shot. Not quite enough on the Moonlight Vigil coming in from Caveat either, but Rue able to find onto 1 as Nat is the first member to fall. Moraka now going to just flash this wall to try and get the safety. Finding that 1 kill may be enough.
Yep.
But there's still only 3 marks on this Bone Tooth necklace for Lunka. He's not been able to find the marks he's missing.
No, he really does need to get that last couple through, otherwise you just don't get to play really as this Rengar. He has finished that opportunity as well, so he is going to be dealing a good amount of damage. Doesn't really help with his getting one-shot problems, though, at all. So that is still something he's going to have to be very careful about. That fight, though, happened pre-having that eye edge in inventory right here for Cavivampia. Now that he's got that completed on top of the Collector, yeah, this Aphelios is going to be hitting.
Yeah, most certainly is. Once again, sitting on Severum Gravitum, so can get a decent burst down. But of course, you do want to hold Severum for a red-white do not fight moment if you can. But with no real other easy-to-land CC, that Gravitum does have increased value in this game.
Yes, it does, but Bandits, I'm just not feeling comfortable with this Bandits lead. It's still 4,000 gold in their favor, but they have lost out onto 2 Drakes in a row. Next one going to be spawning in 15 seconds time, and if you don't want to give over that soul point to Inari, this is going to be a very important one for Bandits to play for, but their pick potential, that's been great. It's been these attempted team fights where things have fallen apart for the Bandits so far.
Finds onto Nat Lunka, going to get a lot of damage down, not going to
What is
CC,
he
but it's
doing?
just not enough. The rest of the team was not there. Now, going to be able to flash out as Lars gets tagged by the public execution. Charm lands onto Ziz, and Ziz will be the next one to fall in this fight. Oku being kept off to the side by the solo laners as Kavia rinses through Maraka. It is now Nat and Nico. Never mind, it's just Nico as a triple kill comes in for Rue. A beautifully played fight off the back of an awkward engage coming in from the jungler of Bandits, and they still find their mark.
Yep, that's...
That's how it's execute.
It's an execute, it's fine. Alright, what are they doing is apparently baiting people in Lungfoa, and then finding a way for Ryu and Cavivampia to just rip through people's heads. Lars now going to punish it as well by grabbing this tier 2 tower, and they extend that gold lead from 4,000 an advantage all the way up to 7k. They're going to attempt to take down this Drake, but the TP, yeah, this is risky. Okay,
Oh,
okay.
Ziz thought better of his decision the second Rue arrived. Seeing this Ophelio's been stacking up chakras on the dragon as well is no small feat. Gonna steal the Spirit Rush just to make sure he doesn't get caught out by any member here. Does jump back forwards. One more charge. Not gonna be able to find a mark with that abduct with it.
And things just keep going wrong for Inari, despite the fact that the beginning of these team fights keep looking pretty dang good. You're now going to get that Shadow Flame completed for Ryu. And with that Atakan down on the bottom side, Lungfo once again going to get jumped. He should just go down. Teleport coming in for some support. But this is still a very squishy Rengar. Final spear lands.
Lars comes down, but Nat now going to be the subject of the grand
Oh,
challenge.
no.
Moonlight Vigil goes wide, but Nat does get executed. Ziz now stuck fighting Lars as Kavir goes down to Nico. Ziz able to get away for now. Mangstorm comes in, but only tags onto 1. Oku dies side, or should do here in just a second. Able to keep away from Rue for now, but it's just not enough. Down goes Maraka as well. Ziz going to steal away the Unbreakable Will to try and keep distance. Nico running for the hills as well, but with this wave now in tow, Lars has lunge, left, right, and center, finds the slow onto Nico. Down goes the Kaiser. Not going to keep chasing onto Ziz, but they can look for the tier 2.
There's going to be another tower falling. They can always peel back and go back towards the Atakan at some point with Lungfo back onto the map, but there's nobody really to cut through these waves. You're going to have to go and take a quick reset for help for Tiz, and that's going to allow Lars to rip through this tier 3 tower. The inhibitor may not fall. No, indeed, this is going to be restraint showed by the Bandits. They are just going to step away, but look at all of the vision as well. There's only a couple of wards down on the bottom side of the map around this Atakan. This should be relatively easy for the Bandits to be able to pick up.
Certainly should be important to note here that while Lunka is being caught in every single one of these fights very early on, there are three bigger threats on the Bandits side that if you're putting resources into shutting Lunka down, you can't stop. Lars, Rue, and Kavia are doing monumental things in these fights, and you cannot stop all three. Inari have to find a way to shut them down as Lunka finds Nico all alone in isolation on the back and does what a Rengar does best. That should be number 4 on the Bone Tooth necklace, as Maraka's going to get caught here as well. Does have to flash away. Spirit Rush used by Ruse is jumping forward, finds the Abduct onto Kavia. Unbreakable will use, but the public execution goes wide. Rooted up, charmed up, Spear goes wide. Nat's found by the Grand Challenge and will drop to Lunka. And it's another 2 very quick picks coming in for the Bandits. Once again, they're back in their heist-filled ways.
There you go. That's what I want to see out of Lungfo. Not him just being used as bait to draw members in and get spells out, but actually use this Rengar to pick off a straggling member. And Nico, unfortunately, on this Kaiser, not going to be able to survive. Even blew the flash in that play to try and get away, and still ends up falling down. That is going to be the Atakan grabbed by the Bandits. They're going to keep up their control of this bottom side of the map. Very helpful when in 2 minutes we're going to get the next Drake spawning. And now there are no remaining towers outside of the base for Inari. They're trying to defend scraps at this point, and Lars, he's still hunting.
That he is. He's not willing to let this one go without some kind of fight. He's just going to back off for now. Jumps forward to maybe finds onto Maraka as Nico is being hunted by Lunka.
Okay.
Jumps in, but takes a lot of damage, gets stunned up and blown up before can use that W. But Lars has found the Grand Challenge onto Maraka and finds a lot of damage, no less. Moonlight Vigil tagged with Gravitum. In comes the Binding Eclipse. Nat has his Onyas. Nico goes down, clearing stickings to the back is the only way he can try to equalize the fight. It's a double kill for Kavia Vampire. And Bandits are looking back to the enemy base. Ziz trying to stop this wave from walking up, clear out as much of it as is humanly possible, pull it away, and he's doing a very, very good job of it. But Lars is in the mid lane.
Oh,
Ziz
he's
gets
going to be
caught up.
annoying.
Trample Stun comes in. Root comes down from the Gravitum. And while the Unbreakable Will is there, it just won't be enough. There's not enough damage to try and find onto one of the carries. Here is a killing spree for Kavia. Comes in a second inhibitor tower, falls on the side of Inari. And the Bandits are finally making their way and cracking through the defenses of the enemy base.
That's now going to be no remaining towers in the mid and the bottom lane right now. And this is going to be the Baron started up. You don't have Nat in the area yet. The only person around is going to be the Rel, and a steal of a Rel going to be very unlikely. Another fight where we end up seeing Lungfo jumping in, losing a lot of health. And at this point, I love it, right? He's got himself a Serpent's Fang. He's not even particularly looking to get that initial kill. He's looking to just cut through the shield. Maybe he gets kills. Maybe it's all right.
He's about to get one. Almost gets executed
happens.
in the end by Nat. Executed straight teeth through the heart as the third dragon for Inari is going to be started up. And with Lunka off the map, this should just be a free pickup for them. It will be Soul Point.
This is wild from Lungfo. On a champion he absolutely loves, but this is kind of what we saw in Division 1 as well, whenever he does manage to grab himself this champion. It's fun, but teams at this level are pretty good at punishing it, right? It works super well in your solo queue games, because as people stood alone all the time, you don't have that same level of quick response. You get jumped, but everybody turns back around, is able to come and help out. Still, it's working out for the Bandits when he's able to draw the members in, use them to blow a couple of the big spells, and then Lars, Ryu, or you're just massive at this point. Cavi on this Aphelios is able to rip their heads off. That's where it works, but it does mean they lose out onto another Drake, right? These are not clean game so far for the Bandits.
No, not at all. There is definitely room to punish them. And if you can shut down at least one, if not two of the carries in the early stages of the game, you do stand a slightly better chance at weathering the storm. That being said, Lars, Rue, and Kavia, as you mentioned, all very, very strong in this game. 3 items on the Aphelios, 3 items on the Ari, 4 on the Fiora, with a 5th on the Horizon. It is not easy to match up to any of these. And you look at the individual differences, right? There's only 2.5, at most 3 items on counterparts.
Mm.
The biggest gap is in that top lane. Lars sitting at nearly 5
Attitude.
items to the 2.5 on Oku.
Yeah, this is just Lars giving us an absolute classic. Anytime he gets this Fiora, you do expect to see it. Is just going to keep up this pressure in the top lane, drawing 4 members up there. And it's just going to allow the waves to be pushed on through bottom side as well. The macro going to have to be really good out of Inari to get away from this.
Really is. Charm goes wide onto Ziz. Is going to be able to walk away for now as that Rengar ultimate is popped.
Can Oku even step up to take... Oh, Lars is just styling on him at this point.
See Kavia, the only member able to get in enough range to hit these towers as Rue steps up, as well as the first Nexus tower falls. It is do or die for Inari here in this game, in this series. Moonlight Vigilante tagged onto 1. There's a lot of damage coming down. This may be the fight they're looking for. Down goes Kavia. Rue and Lars still live. Down goes Ziz. First one to fall. Maraka next to follow. Nat goes down 2. Down goes Nico. And just like that, Inari drop 2-0 against the Bandits, and the Division 1 team are looking to return.
Really impressive game right there from the Bandits, able to pick that one up. Yeah, it's a little bit slower. A couple of moments where you're slightly questioning what it is that Lungfo is doing, but Lars, absolute Fiora classic from right there. Ryu as well, really impressed by the way he was able to play that Ari. In a lot of those fights, everybody else was kind of dying, getting chased around, and he was landing those charms. He was just constantly jumping on forwards and dealing a ton of damage. A very, very impressive game from him. And yeah, congratulations to the Bandits. They're going to keep themselves in the upper bracket. They now are only 1 series away from getting themselves back into Division 1 to go and try to get back to the finals like they did in our Split 1 this year.
That they are. The resurgence truly is still on. That is now 4 series they have been able to pick up since getting their main 5 back. Was it clean?